Thank you for taking the time. We're here at Ridgemont Highlands. Beautiful drive to get here. I actually drove with you, so it was nice to sort of have a nice debrief on what's been an incredible year for you and a year that will see you leaving.
Yes, as daunting as that may sound, it's a very exciting new venture that I look forward to.
From the last meeting we had, we saw you win on Walk of Fame. It's quite a nice send off to see this filly that I think from the stable, from the owner's perspective, she had a lot of ability, and to see her go win the Champagne Stakes was quite fantastic. Can you just talk us through the emotions and the build up to that?
Yeah, I think it was quite evident in the post-race interview. I was pretty emotional. The celebratory gesture after the winning post, I think, also showed it. But as you say, we're sitting here at Ridgemont Highlands, and the fact that we've been working together for the best part of 7-8 years. It couldn't have been a better send-off, Troy. I went to the course on the day hoping to achieve black type because that's the MO for the farm, obviously. Having won the race was just, it was truly special, and I couldn't have scripted it any better.
To talk about really big wins, one that really comes to mind is Whiskey Barons. I'm going to jump straight there because it's the synergy that you have with the Ridgemont family and that connection. It's a 7-8 years of working day in and day out to have these big moments. So you go through the downs, you go through the ups. So let's go through that journey of Whiskey Baron, because I think it's one of the most interesting ones to win the Met. They'd obviously won Group 1 with front and center before, but to you winning the Met, talk us through his prep, because he won a Group 2 right before that, and he possibly wasn't a Met horse going in to that race.
Well, yes. The progression that he made, after the gelding, he won 5 on the bounce, culminating in the Met. The route that he took, we always had aspirations for him, and we knew that he had ability. But the steady progress that he made, as I say, leading into that Group 2 or Grade 2, and then getting to the Met, it was a master plan of a training, on behalf of Brett Crawford. But as far as the journey goes, it didn't end there. We can allude to some of that later. But when we got to the Met and he managed to win it the way he did, again, it doesn't get much bigger than that. Winning the Met is special, but winning it for your connections, for the team that I've been a part of, it was massive. It really was.
So you've been with Ridgemont Highlands from roughly 2015. How did that relationship start, and where were you in your career in that point?
I hadn't been back from overseas for all that long, probably about 18 months or so. And I was approached to join the team, if I'd be interested. Bernard Fader-Herb was retained jockey at the time. And, I got the offer. They said they needed a lightweight rider, and, they basically spelled out what would be required, etc. And yes, it looked like something I was more than happy to do. I wasn't tied down to any stables. It would have no effect on my commitments in the Eastern Cape with Alan Creef at the time. So it was, I was more than happy to take on the opportunity to start riding for the Ridgemont team. And as I say, I started off a second choice rider to Bernard Fader-Herb, and then when he relocated to Mauritius for a season, I stepped into the leading role. We had a lot of success together, Later on, Anton came on board, and, we tweaked the contracts. I was sat down, we discussed it again around the boardroom table, and only too happy to stay on, in the capacity there was. And even though Anton was the first choice rider at the time, I was still very, very happy, and it was actually a privilege to work, for Ridgemont for all this time. And it's been a very fruitful relationship for myself and for Ridgemont, and I just can't thank them enough for their support.
To talk on horses that you've been a part of that journey with, that you've just alluded to, with being part of the stable, front and center. She was a Group 1 winner, Run Fox Run. She was a Group 1 winner. You would have ridden a lot of work. You would have discussed a lot of the nitty-gritties that go into getting the horses to win that big race. They obviously had a lot of wins along the way, so you might have ridden them in those races too.
I did. I rode them in some of the lead-up races. I rode Run Fox Run a couple of times. I won a black type race with her, front and center, if I'm not mistaken. I won the Diana Stakes on her, if I'm not mistaken. But prepping those horses, Troy, I thoroughly enjoy working the horses, working at the yard and that. Race riding is what we do. I'm very competitive in that regard. But I get a lot of enjoyment from preparing horses for race day. I have done so over all the years for various other trainers. So, even though Anton won the Fillies Guineas on front and centre and he won the Cape Flying on Run Fox Run, I shared in that success internally, knowing that I had some part to play in it, but just getting those horses to that level and winning at the highest level, which is obviously incredibly important for the farm. I take a lot of satisfaction knowing that I worked with a tremendous amount of black type fillies and mares, and there've been one or two other boys along the way, obviously Whiskey Baron being the main one. Just the work aspect and being a part of getting those horses to the highest level, I've really enjoyed that.
So let's talk work routine, your methodology. You're very meticulous on how you go through things. Were you like that going into the Jockey Academy in 1991, and then you became a professional, obviously, a few years later?
Yes, the academy is a good grounding. Obviously, we know that it's been quoted as being world renowned. So, what we learned over there obviously put me in good stead going forward. My family life, my mother and father, and the support that I got from them. Obviously, the key elements in life are to achieve anything. You've got to stay true to yourself, work hard. So, I try to always do that. I've never shied from work. I've tried to be as diligent and, committed to my work as I could have been, from the day I left the academy, as you say, up until now, just before I might be leaving the shores. Hard work has always been, I think, one of the catalysts for me in regards to maintaining support in an industry where, when things go bad, I've had my downs. We don't like to talk about them, but I've had a lot of downturns along the way, injuries, suspensions, lengthy suspensions, and that. And bouncing back each time is all through hard work and commitment. I've forged a lot of relationships with trainers over the years, both obviously in the Eastern Cape with Alan Greef, but in the Western Cape I've had my support over all the years. And pretty much the hard work aspect is what I think keeps me going, Troy. I enjoy the work, and it served me well.
Do you keep track of your accolades or your winners, the rides, the Group 1s? Is that something you track?
I've got the records, yes. I don't really track them. I had to look them up. If you asked me a while ago when I was putting a CV together, to look for something in the UK now, and I've had 12 Grade 1 winners, but I've had over 100 black type winners. So, that was a number that actually surprised myself, and seen a lot of my trophies, which I had to start deciding what to do with when we're moving house now. And you look back and you say to yourself, I've done all right. I think I'm just over 2,300 winners. So it's been a good career, Troy.
So along that journey, you came out of the Jockey Academy. Where do you start off with? Are you still looking for rides? Do you start with a trainer? Now you mentioned that you had a few mentors along the way. Is that from the very beginning of your career, or did that come from experience in race riding?
Yes, I think early days, even before you start race riding and you go to the race course and you basically do kit for some of the senior jockeys. The late Gordon White was very good to me. He was a very kind man, very good jockey in his own right. He taught me a lot, just in general. Robbie Fred, and then there were the likes of Pierce Stradham and Dougie White, Waishon Mowing. Used to look up to them, but as far as mentor goes, Gordon White was probably key for me. And then there were the trainers as well, from Mike Riley's days, the late Mike Riley. I went from him to David Payne, what they taught me. And then my final year I was transferred to the Western Cape, and I was apprenticed to Colin Burrows. And Mr. Burrows supported me, like you can't believe, and also taught me a lot. And then Chris Snaith, just to name a few from the early days, and then when you qualify, you've got to find your own feet and live life on your own. That's a whole new experience. And then from the jockey room, you obviously watch the senior jockeys, the more successful jockeys, from their lifestyle to their riding, and you just try and develop your own style, I suppose, and your own way of life, and decide how you're going to try to get to the top.
So you went to Hong Kong in 2009, and then left there 2011. but you had a giant season building up to that Hong Kong leave. If I might mention 5 Group 1s in one season, does that?
Yes, that was.
You still live through that?
Yeah, no, that was massive. You know, when you that season at the time, the 2008-9 season, I rode 154 winners, which was my benchmark at the time, including 5 Grade 1 winners. You know, and I've been fortunate that I've had 10 seasons where I've ridden 100 plus. Winning a lot of races is key, but you know we chase those big ones. It's you want to win the graded races, the Mets, the Julys, which I've been fortunate enough to do, and a couple of others along the way. But yeah, obviously working day in, day out, so as many winners as you can rack up is just as important. But the Hong Kong experience, yeah, as you say, that came about 10 years after my leaving my apprenticeship. I had a lot of ups and downs, a number of injuries, lengthy suspensions. I had a short stint in Mauritius, a short stint in Germany, and then when I came back from Mauritius, I said to myself, now I need to really focus. I need to decide what I want to do. And it was only then when I sat down and said, okay, I'm going to give myself 5 years. I'm not going to move. I'm going to base myself in the Cape for 5 years and see how high I can go. And it actually worked well for me. You know, I just kept progressing. And at the end of the day, I hit form, and that 2008-9 season was the pinnacle at that time, which allowed me an invitation to Hong Kong.
I'm going to reel off a few names here just to jog people's memories, and we can also talk through some of those wins. Desert Lynx won the Gold Cup.
Lynx at the front, Membrado, Omar Beach, equal image down the inside, Sarah Carrera, but it's Desert Lynx from Membrado, Omar Beach running on, Desert Lynx though holding on, Desert Lynx is holding on and is going to win it, Desert Lynx has won it.
Group 1 at the time, paddock stakes you won with Emblem of Liberty, which coincidentally also was a part owner with. And
yes,
so
Claire and I were co-owners with Lionel Cohen. It was a filly that I tried to buy at the sales and never managed to, and approached Lionel after that, and he kindly allowed me to lease the filly. So yeah, that was also a lovely story.
But just not quickening up, and it's going to be Emblem of Liberty. Greg Cheyne and Jeff Woodruff who team up to win the paddock stakes. River Jeter's a short head back in second along the inside. Dancer's Daughter only back in third.
Lady Windermere was a top class horse. Talk us through that journey, because you mentioned to me in the car that you were with Glenn Cotson, and obviously you had won with Big City Life in that same huge epic season. But she won the SA Filly Sprint, and what was that like?
Yeah, it was massive. I think she'd won the Scepter Stakes the season before here in the Cape, which was a Grade 2, and then we took her up there and she won the Grade 1.
Extravagance looks to come home powerfully on the outside. Merlene Delago down the centre. Lady Windermere, a 3-way go. Lady Windermere's coming home with Merlene Delago. Lady Windermere pulled it off.
And I got off her and I said to Glenn and Peter DeBaya, I said, you know what, I think this filly can win the Garden Province Stakes. And I think they were a little bit taken aback, saying that this is one of the better sprinting fillies around, which obviously agreed with, but I really felt she'd get the mile. So we decided to enter. Fields came out, she drew 1. I had Sparkling Gem drawn 2, which was an obvious front runner. I knew I was going to get a toe into the race, and basically when the entries came out, I was really excited. And I think I said to you earlier that Big City Life winning the July was epic. You go through a career without winning in July, most jockeys.
Forest Path, Big City Live. Zirconia moves up. Thundering Jet. Tropical Empire on the inside. Our Giant. Pocket Power and River Jetes to the outside. Big City Life, Zirconium. Big City Life and Zirconium. Pocket Power's coming too late. Big City Life, fire in his eyes.
The 300 flashed past me and I hadn't got the horse into top gear. I figured, well, now's as good a time as any. The horse's preparation has been unbelievable. We haven't had one hiccup with this horse. There's a whole bunch of owners here, Glenn Cotson and everybody that's had the faith in me to ride this horse. I really appreciate the opportunity. Even Adele and Michael back home, Vernie, everybody there, Frikkie Greyling. Horses are his life, and he's brought this horse through. My family, my sister, my mother and my father, I dedicate this win to them, especially my late father, and to my wife Claire. Thanks, guys.
And the more exciting win on the day for me was Lady Windermere when she won that Garden Province. Just the way we had to just tweak her training a little bit, and Glenn got her there on the day, and she managed to win the Garden Province. So having the 2 Grade 1s on the same day was a very, very big day for us.
His captain's girl, Lady Windermere, on a Tro's trying to run on, then Kiribati Prestig, Mochaccino, Gilded Minaret, then comes Ray Ray, and Sparkling Gems hanging tough over the last 100, and Sparkling Gem, Lady Windermere down the inside, Sparkling Gem, Lady Windermere, it's going to get close, Lady Windermere won it, Prestig absolutely flew up.
Then you go to Hong Kong, any memorable moments?
Yes, of course there were. The competitiveness of the racing and the whole racing industry is so different. You can't really compare it. You're rubbing shoulders with the best there, and when you're there on International Day, and Frankie Dettori was sitting that side of me, and Ryan Moore just in front of me, just to name drop a few. But I mean, Christophe Soumillon, and there were just too many. Olivier Pellier. I just remember seeing those guys, and I was almost a little bit awestruck then, and then realised, but you know what, you've made it here. You should be in the same league as them. So. But it is that first time you see them all in the same jockey room as you was quite a, I don't know how to explain the feeling, but a little bit overwhelming. I only had one ride on the day, believe it or not, the first international, and it won. So maybe it was an inspiration, I'm not sure. But Hong Kong, I won a race for Tony Millard on a horse called Iron Fist. I was fortunate enough to pick up the ride. Jeff Lloyd fractured his ankle the week before. And I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and he won the ladies' purse, which was one of the big sponsored races there, and beating one of the up-and-coming horses. And then riding a Jalid filly, and funny enough, here we are at Ridgemont. Jalid was a former stallion, a filly, which is very, very, you never see fillies in Hong Kong really. Sweet Sinette, she came from Johannesburg, and I won a Group 3 with her in Hong Kong, so she was probably my biggest win there. Those would have been the two big highlights for me. But funny enough, funny story, the Chinese culture is one of a lot of superstitions and beliefs, and wishing people good luck, etc. So we had the Chinese Good Year meeting, and I was riding a horse called Kung Hai Fat Choi, which is the equivalent of saying Happy New Year. And it was on the New Year's Day meeting that they celebrate. It was a horse that was about to be retired because his rating had become so low. He was running in a Class 5, and he jumped favourite, purely because I think every gambling person had their $5 on the horse. So he jumps favourite, and we managed to win. So that was quite a highlight, winning the lowest class race you could on a really battling horse. But the sentiment involved was epic. I believe it was televised on CNN that night as well. So it was just a funny little memory I have of Hong Kong, as well as the big winners.
So let's talk about luck, because I think people don't realize in racing, you go through all the meticulous planning, but you need luck along the way, and a lot of it. And there's that old adage of, the more you're working hard at it, the luckier you become. Is that what it's like for you? Is that sort of a career that you could describe in that way?
You could. You do. You need a hell of a lot of luck, Troy. One thing goes wrong in a race, you can call that bad luck. So you need the right luck too. Sometimes things just happen for you in a race where things aren't going right, and then you get lucky, So yes, luck is a big factor, but I think there's a lot more planning that goes into it, and there are a lot more variables and things that you can't control, which you've just got to hope go right on the day. If you deem that to be luck when everything goes your way, I'm not sure. But you do need those lucky breaks, when gaps open, when you didn't expect them to, etc. But I like to map my races out and have a very good idea of how things are going to work out. The bigger races, you have plan A, B, and C, and then hope for a bit of luck.
10-time champion jockey in the Eastern Cape, predominantly through a really, really strong relationship with Alan Krief's yard. Can you just talk to us about how that relationship began and what it means to you and how it's developed you as a rider?
Yeah, it's obviously, I think, most of my success has been in the Eastern Cape, and all due to Alan Krief, being a powerhouse stable, as was his father before him. It was a relationship that came about per chance. I'd been riding in the Eastern Cape for a number of years, just picking up rides from all sorts of the small trainers. I never ever had a job there. And funny enough, I just accepted a position. Yvette Bremner and I sat down, and I was going to ride for her the following season. And MJ Oudendal was riding for Ellen Greef at the time, and he had a medical issue that required surgery, and he was going to be off for a number of months. And Ellen Greef approached me and asked me to take the job. And I was in a bit of a predicament because, you know, I've always been a man of my word, and I then had to go and have a meeting with Yvette again, and sat down with her, and it was one of the hardest decisions I had to make. Not hardest decisions, but one of the hardest conversations I had, you know. And we sat down, we both actually cried about it, and because we'd come a long way when she was still working for Paul Lafferty at the time. And so I accepted the job. I just decided I've got to do something for myself, and in that regard, taking a position to ride for Ellen Greef was really a no-brainer. Yeah, in the first season together we won the championship. I got beaten in the championship the next season by Mark Kahn, who was riding for Gavin Smith. You know, they've always been rivals, the Smith and Greef stables. And Mark Kahn beat me that season, but I probably learned more in that season than I could have learned in any other season. And since then, yeah, I've managed to win the East Cape title. As you say, it's now 10 times now. So it's been a very fruitful relationship. Ellen and I, we speak just about daily. If not daily, then 4 or 5 times a week. We plan races together, we do entries together, and it really has been a fantastic relationship. The time that I spent in Hong Kong and Singapore for that 4-year period, we never lost touch. We used to keep in touch then as well. And when I got back, I was fortunate enough to be offered the position again. And when I was off injured for 8 months, I got offered the job back again. So yeah, I can't thank Alan and Glennifer and the whole team enough. You know, it's been a massive effort that I've managed to win 10 titles, as you say, predominantly based on Alan's support.
And 2-time champion jockey in the Western Cape. So to go through, reel off your accolades, we've got 5 Group 1s in a season, 10-time champion jockey in Eastern Cape, 2-time champion jockey in the Western Cape. And obviously the record for the most winners in a season in the Eastern Cape. These are all gigantic moments in a career. Are you going to miss race riding? Are you going to go and race riding? What are the next steps?
Yes, good question, Troy. Of course, I'm still going to look to race ride, but I'm probably not going to be riding as much as I do now. I am going over to the UK to work. When I say work, what I mean is I'm going to be working for William Haggas. So I'm going to be working in the yard, I'm going to be riding out, and basically he says he's got a plan for me. So where I develop within his yard is still something we're going to iron out. And when the race rides are there, then yeah, I'm obviously going to be looking to take the saddle with. But predominantly I'm going to go over to work. This is the next phase of my life, next phase of my career, building towards a different future and just looking at what the UK racing product has to offer. When I had the opportunity to ride Whiskey Baron over there in 2017, I experienced some of what Newmarket has to offer. And probably now, where I'm at in my career, I still got many good years of race riding ahead of me. Claire and I we just put things into perspective. I think maybe during COVID, a lot of things we put into perspective, and we're just ready to make that leap, you know, just looking for that change. And I'm really excited by the opportunity to see what the British product has to offer, and also hugely excited to hear about what's happening in the Western Cape. You know, you must remember I'm South African by heart, and my roots are still here. By no means am I leaving the country because I'm pessimistic of what the future might hold, but I'm just looking to experience something new and something different.
How did that relationship come about with William Haggas? We all know that he's flown in most Januaries and Februaries for a little holiday, but also to enjoy the racing product here. There's a really good relationship with a lot of the owners here. Did it come about in that way? How did that conversation go, that you and Claire would both work for William or go to join his yard?
Luckily, I've met William on a number of occasions. The first time would have been in 2005 when Claire and I went on honeymoon. We actually went and did a whole tour of the UK, and Joey Ramsden kindly got hold of William and asked himself and Maureen to look after us for a day or two. So I saw the yard back then, and then, as you say, you know, William and Maureen come out for their summer holidays and they come to the Queen's Plate. So met him through the stables and the racing again. And then when I went to go ride Whiskey Baron again, we were obviously stabled at Abington Place, but I wanted to experience more. So when I was finished with Whiskey in the morning, then I'd give Harry a call, Harry Eustace is training on his own now. He was William's right-hand man at the time. And he'd say to me, yes, you've still got third lot to go. And I'd run down to the yard. And so I rode out a bit for him then. So I got to know a little bit about the yard. Thoroughly enjoyed it. There are just so many gallops. You know, you just can't explain it. You've got to see it to believe it. And then when, as I say, when Claire and I made the decision that we would like to relocate, the UK became our first choice. I decided, okay, let me put a resume together. Who am I going to go to? Spoke to somebody in the UK that I could in confidence, and basically he recommended William was the obvious choice, but because I knew him, and then I was going to look at applying with Godolphin, John Gosden, and he suggested Roger Varian. So I thought, well, let me start with William, and I was very, very fortunate that as soon as I put the application in, the response was instantaneous. And William said, I'd love for you and Claire to both work for me. We had a Zoom meeting, told us what his plans were going forward, and he said, if you'd like to be a part of that, I'm happy to have you both. The reason he knew Claire as well was she just completed the diploma course, which is a 6-month permanent course at the National Stud last year, and she had 2 or 3 weeks spare, and she went and spoke to William, and she involved herself in the yard there for about 2 to 3 weeks, and also came back and said, wow, you know, her eyes were just opened in regards to the product and the environment that you're working in there. So we're very, very fortunate that both of us wanted to be there. So it was quite an easy decision for us to say that UK could be our first call. We've been warned about the weather, but we'll get back to you on that one.
To keep it light-hearted, and I always try and end off in this kind of segment, just because you are a unique individual, unique jockey, and so we need to get to know you and what makes you tick. So Greg, you're a football fan, and I'm going to dare say you mentioned Neil Andrews because you have a common interest.
We do, as was one of your previous documentaries with Greg Bortz. Yeah, I'm a Spurs fan. I was very fortunate that Greg actually offered me tickets also in 2017 when I was over there to go watch a game. He allowed Claire and I to use 2 of his tickets, and we went and watched Spurs play Chelsea. Unfortunately, they were rebuilding at the time, so we didn't go to the new stadium. We went to Wembley, which was still goosebump stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely going to put that back on my bucket list to go and see a few more of the games at the new stadium. Outside of that, I enjoy my golf. So, you know, golf is what, you know, keeps anybody humble, I suppose. But it's my out, you know. When I get on the golf course, you just forget about everything. Meet up with a different group of people, you know, outside of racing. So I've got my friends on the golf course, and it's obviously a good day out. And then Claire and I, you know, we spend a lot of time together. You know, we're a very, very small family. And we enjoy each other's company. So, yeah, just looking forward to that next chapter together.
Favorite drink?
Mainstays off the market now, but it used to be Cane and Coke. Otherwise, I enjoy a beer. So, yeah, mainly just a normal beer guy.
I was going to say Castle Lager has not sponsored this, so we can't punt Castle Light. The other things I'd like to find out about you, Greg, are you a person that prepares for a race day the day before? Do you have a kit room that's all set up and everything's polished?
No, I'm fortunate. When I travel to the Eastern Cape, I've got a set of equipment there because I just found over the years, you know, I'm a permanent fixture there. So I book all my flights in advance. I don't have to worry about am I going to get rides or not. So that's an advantage. I can book everything in advance, and I've got somebody that looks after all my equipment there. Call it a valet if you want. And so I just basically fly in regards to as my equipment goes. Obviously prepping for races, studying the race card, you know, that's part and parcel of what you do. In the Western Cape, yes, I've got my bags here. I polish it after races. I try and get everything clean straight after races. I have got somebody that helps to do the washing. But yeah, it's all these little things you got to do just to make life easier getting to the course. You know, you don't want to have too much left to do on the day of races. You want to be able to arrive ready to compete.
If you can comment on the jockey ranks currently, as someone that obviously won't be riding here, encouraging jockeys, if you can comment on what you've seen this year with Warren Kennedy really going for it, and Richard, who now, you know, is going to travel up and down to try and chase that title.
You know, the younger riders are coming through. You know, Keegan DeMello and Richard Fourie are at the top of their games. Warren Kennedy, he's proven himself over the last couple of seasons. You know, he's already a champion, and he's champion-elect again this season. He's worked incredibly hard for it. So, you know, anybody that wants to win that title takes a hell of a lot of work and travelling. You can't just win it from a single centre. We've seen how many rides you have to accumulate in order to... You've got to ride well over 200 to win a championship nowadays. And, you know, Richard's in a very good position to do that next season. I wish him well if he is going to chase. I know he's taking some time off in August, but... yeah, if he's going to be riding for Alan Creef next season, as well as still doing the Durban and Joburg trips, and we know he's very, very competitive in the Western Cape, I would have to think he'd be favourite to win it. You know, Keegan de Mello as well, as I mentioned, he's got a lot of support in Johannesburg and Durban, and he comes down to the Western Cape where he rides a fair amount of winners. Yeah, those two guys are really flying at the moment, and any youngster that's looking to come through, even someone like Rachel Venneker, you know, she's got a bright future ahead of her, and it's only a matter of time when I think she should probably start travelling a little bit more as well. She's got the support in KwaZulu-Natal. Be nice to see her get around a little bit more, riding winners. I see Caden Brewer and some youngsters like Carl Stradham riding in the Eastern Cape. You know, you gain a lot of experience wherever you go, so, you know, you need to get out to different tracks and different venues in order to gain experience, because the racing is so different from one centre to the next. Johannesburg racing is totally different to Durban racing, and obviously the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape as well. So to those youngsters, you know, if you want to progress, you need to learn more, and yeah, hard work is always key.
Do you have a favourite course?
Kenilworth is home, so, you know, you have to... I'm a bit biased, Kenilworth. You know, South Africa's got very good tracks. You know, Turffontein is an unbelievable track. The Vaal is an incredible track. Obviously, depending on climate, different times of year, yes, they can get firm. Cape Town can get soft. But they're very good race courses, Troy. And then you've got the short course and you've got the long course. So Kenilworth would be my favourite. And, you know, then even the poly track at Fairview, you know, it's a newish addition in South African racing. We've done incredibly well on the surface, and I think it's served the Eastern Cape racing really well. But yeah, back to the original question, Kenilworth definitely.
Young people in the industry to look out for that you'd like to see go on and fulfill their potential that you could mention?
I'm really liking where Kabelo Motsiani is going at the moment. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but I think he's got a future ahead of him. He's getting support from some of the good stables. I'd like to see him progress. Somebody like Caden Brewer, I also like the way he's going, and as I mentioned, Rachel Venneker. So of those that are newly qualified apprentices or still apprentices, I like what I see there at the moment.
And then the last question I'm going to ask is if you had a choice on a final meal that you could eat. I know you're a lightweight jockey that weighs 52. Do you normally eat whatever you want, or do you have a restricted diet? And if you could just pick anything to just gorge yourself with, it would be?
Poof. It's a hard one. Let me start that one again, because you got me off guard there. Yeah.
You're a lightweight jockey, you ride 52 unbelievably, and normally that changes in a jockey's career. You see them start off lightweight and then they creep up in weight. So do you eat whatever you want, or do you have a specific sort of routine and that keeps your weight to where it's at?
No, I'm very fortunate that I've always been a lightweight jockey. I can ride bottom weight, and I've got a very balanced diet. I like clean food, I like good food. I'm not much of a fast food fan at all. So I'm lucky that the fact that I'm a lightweight rider and I eat clean, I think it's stood me in good stead. And yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones, I guess.
So if you had to have a final meal in the world, what would that be?
Sure. Probably a good steak, Troy. You know, I don't eat a lot of red meat, but there's nothing like having that good steak and a nice glass of red wine to pair it up with.
Closing stages, and Champs-Élysées beats Desert Miracle.
wide. Double superlative, puts his head in front close home. He wins the Guineas going away. These two left to fight it out. Haggas now taken the lead. Dung wins the bet.